Eccellenze, professori.
So, dear excellencies, distinguished guests, professors, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Francesca Cadeddu from the Foundation of Religious Studies in Bologna, and I would like to greet you on behalf of Professor Alberto Belloni and the Foundation. And today's session is a session whose topic is education and religious diversity, which is something that researchers and also religious authorities, but also politicians researched about and discussed in order to grasp the challenges of diversities in schools and universities, the challenges that diversity poses. So today, we would like to start and to nurture this debate. So following our program, the Italian Minister of Education, Mr. Patrizio Bianchi, will introduce and will open the session. Minister, the floor to you.
Essendo lontani, tolgo la maschera.
So since you're far away, I will remove my mask.
Professor Melloni, the forum and the foundation to have organized this such an extraordinary meeting. Yeah, there is a time, a proper time for everything. There's a time to kill and there is a time to heal. This time, our time, is the time to heal. It's the time to rediscover the pleasure to live together. It's the time to go over the virus, not only the physical disease, not only the COVID, but also to go over the moral disease that for more than 20 years was real acting in the world. The virus, the dangerous virus of individualism, the virus of populism. And the two are together because both individualism and populism, they want to destroy the sense, the meaning of community. It's time to reconstruct the community. And for this reason, it's necessary to rediscover the word religion. Religion in the ancient original meaning. Religion from re ligere, that in Latin means to take responsibility, to take care to the people. And religare, that means to join together. Or re-eligere, that means to choice. It's time to choice. It's time to choice. If we are on the side of the kill or on the side of to will. It's time to remember that in the last 20 years, the world is different. It's different. Think about this country. For decades, for more than 1 century, this country was a country of emigration. The destiny of the Italians was in Latin America, was in Australia, was in North America, was in the richest area of the North. In the last 20 years, we are now a country of immigration. Think about 15 years ago, in this country, we had 50,000 children having immigrant parents. Now we have almost 900,000 children, not foreigners. Children, our children, all our children. Think about the role of the school. For centuries, the school was the place of division. It's not true that the school was the place of join together. The school was the place where we established the differences among classes, among people. It's time to change our school. It's time to reconnect the deep meaning of religio with the deep meaning of education. That means to go over. This is the meaning of education, to go over the virus, to go over the moral virus, the political viruses, to reconstruct. It's time to reconstruct. And it's time also to start from the school. The school not as a marginal institution of society, but a basic pillar of society, where we have to educate not only our children. It's too easy, my friends. It's too easy to say that the school is the institution for teaching to our students, but to educate ourselves to live together. It's time of great responsibility, and it's time of great participation, and it's time to choice. It's time to choose between conflicts and fraternity. It's time to choose, my friends. And this is the sense also of the G20. G20 to choose all together that it's time to end wars and to build peace. The peace among the nations, the peace among the people, but in particular, the peace as a part of education of our children. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I now introduce you to Professor Scherto Gill, Senior Researcher Fellow at Guerrand-Hermes Foundation for Peace, and Patrice Brodeur, who's Associate Professor at the University of Montreal and Senior Advisor at the KAICIID Center.
Your Excellencies, thank you very much for allowing me to contextualize today's dialogue. And thank you, Minister, for bringing our common concern of children to the fore and highlight the deep meaning of religion. And once again, bring to the room the 4 pillars of UNESCO's 4 pillars of learning. Learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, but more importantly, learning to be. So how does the deep meaning of religion and that kind of religious experience help contribute to the global agenda, especially concerning our children? So the theme, Time to Heal, extremely pertinent to education. For the past 18 months, we know children and young people globally amongst the groups who suffer most from the multiple overlapping emergencies, the COVID pandemic, social and economic deprivation, constant threat of outbreak of violence and conflict, and most importantly, the possibility of an imminent climate change tipping point highlighted in the latest UN IPCC report, a moment of code red for humanity, according to the UN Secretary General. So indeed, we are confronted with unprecedented, interconnected crisis. The harrowing effect of these traumatizing situations have been felt first and foremost by our children. Every single young life has been affected, be it coping with disruption of education, gaps in digital access to learning, isolation during COVID lockdown, anxiety, depression, poverty, loss of loved ones to both COVID and the climate disasters. So no wonder there has already been a widespread mental health problem amongst worldwide youth, termed as a hidden pandemic. So according to the UNICEF, about 1 billion children, 1 billion children will live in high vulnerability in the shadow of these crises. So to bring, and thank you, Minister, for highlighting the importance of care. And so to bring this global situation closer to the concern of this year's G20 Interfaith Forum here in Bologna, we can see that the more foreboding these emergencies, the more intense the fear of the unknown, the more threatening the violent conflict, and the greater, as Minister said, the greater the need for faith, for love, for global ethics, and for solidarity. So to heal these wounds experienced by our children and young people, and to prevent further brutality upon humanity and our planet, many have suggested that it requires concerted political will, coherent global policies, but most importantly, the radical collaboration across differences in religious persuasion, moral imperatives, identities, and affiliation. So in particular, a cause for interfaith alliance whereby each faith community offer the best of their gifts. These gifts, as Professor Maloney said yesterday, are located in the depth of their spiritual experiences and faith. So these gifts will be our collective action towards building back better and to co-flourishing. So now, thanks for the Foundation and the IF20 Association, we have here a very distinguished, high-level panel of ministers and religious leaders. We are eager to hear Your Excellency's comments on some emergent questions. Here I highlight a few. How might education, formal, informal, and non-formal, contribute to healing and well-being? And in what way might interreligious or interfaith learning nurture our children and young people's social, emotional capacities and critical competencies so that they can cherish the dignity of all people and embrace our mutual belongingness? The last question, what conditions might characterize our educational ecosystem that takes young people and children and young people's well-being and the planet wellness at the core of its care? I thank you, and thank you, Your Excellencies, and we look forward to your comments.
谢, Professor Gill. I just want to explain the rest of the panel proceedings. We will take speakers in the order in which they appear in the program. However, 2 people enlisted there have not been able to be here and sends their regret. And this is Mr. Evis Koshi of Albania, as well as Ms. Yifat Shashabiton from Israel. And so they are not present among us. Otherwise, we will follow the list in the order. So I'd like to invite, first and foremost, Your Excellency, Salim AlMalik, the Director General of ISESCO, the Islamic World Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. لو سمحت.
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored here today to address a very important and timeless subjects of education, peace, culture, and interfaith dialogue, and the understanding of religion. Yet these are the most overlooked subject as nation becomes increasingly polarized and extremism of all kinds continue to jeopardize peace and education efforts that the global community has been building. As Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Today, we shall reaffirm our commitment to these immutable principles and restore universal values of humanity that should reign supreme over all other ideologies that continue to separate us today. Despite relentless attempts at fostering peace, our world is still beset with conflict, bigotry, and hate. The answer lies in the way that we approach peace and education. In education, we prepare future generation, not just how to read and write, but to become thoughtful and responsible members of societies and be part of creating a culture of peace. In peace, we always look at peace as an environment devoid of war. We look at peace as the antithesis of war, and as such, we focus our energy on chasing utopia peace. Education for peace is the conscious and assertive effort that creating a structure where change agents, leaders, institutions, and policies continue to promote unity, coexistence, and the understanding between human beings. And that effort requires multilateral thinking, which include a myriad of focus such as economic, educational, cultural, environmental, psychosocial, and gender dimension. This is why we at ICISCO pride ourselves on a uniquely multi-sectoral and holistic approach to peace building, to tackle issues to peace within the realm of these factors. And this is done by galvanizing our different sectors and departments to work in tandem to produce a unique solution to education for peace that can withstand the pressure of modern conflicts. But we cannot achieve peace alone. We cannot achieve it in isolation from others, and that's why we need to acknowledge the crucial importance of building institutions and communities of peace around the world to provide the necessary checks and balances to prevent a conflict that may lead to war. In this regard, we have to admit that one of the most important developments in history of modern humanity is the establishment of global institutions that have made it possible for peace to be the norm and war the exceptions. Our education system is predominantly focused on industrial development rather than human emancipation and coexistence. And this has a profound effect on the modern human psyche and their propensity to engage in conflict and war and wage war. This is why it is our duty as leaders to integrate the peace and human coexistence discourse in every facet of education in our countries. In ICISCO, we place a huge focus on mercy and compassion to be integrated with the education corpus of our 54 member states. During our ICISCO International Conference in Civilization Value in the Prophet Sira in 2021, we concluded, among many decisions, to call the United Nations to proclaim April 21st as the World Day of Mercy. We believe that if the value of mercy and coexistence can seep through pages of our children's education textbook, we stand a chance to nurture peace-loving citizens in the next generation. Also, to this end, ICISCO initiated an ambitious program aimed at promoting peace, especially by mobilizing youth, women, and religious leaders through our flagship leadership training in peace and security program. The 2021 edition allowed mobilizing training 30 youth peace ambassadors, including 18 girls from 24 countries in 4 continents, by providing them knowledge and leadership skills while reaching hundreds of thousands of youth throughout social media. ICISCO has held also a very high-level international virtual forum on the role of religious leaders in the face of crisis under the theme towards global moral solidarity in 2022. That conference brought together a large number of eminent authorities from all over the world. The conference declaration, which in my opinion is very important and is of great value to all stakeholders present here, is accessible in our website. Ladies and gentlemen, peace among cultures also means mutual understanding between religions, because no peace can ever prevail when extremism becomes the dominant ideology in religions. Peaceful coexistence is possible only when we establish a middle ground, a set of common universal values that bind us together rather than tear us apart. We're living through a devastating pandemic that continues to disrupt the lives and livelihood of millions of people around the world and break the fabric of our societies apart. Responsible leaders, particularly the G20s, and others. Therefore, have to inculcate the spirit of solidarity, understanding, social justice, and tolerance within our people, and to ensure that the same spirit permeates every corner of our daily lives and touches the heart and minds of people across the globe. This is our supreme responsibility, and the reason why ICISCO proposed a new societal project called the Societies We Want Initiative, aims at building peaceful, inclusive, prosperous, resilient, and sustainable societies, lest we fall into the trap of distrust and spiraling hate and bring about our biggest fear of war and conflict. We at ICISCO believe that we must transcend beyond just the mere absence of war and promote the building of an environment that forms the breeding ground for the positive culture of peace within societies that translate into peace-induced domestic and regional policies. As they say, if we want to reduce conflict, do not say no to war, but say yes to peace. We at ICISCO stand in working together with all our peace-building partners towards building this narrative in achieving global peace through the power of education and the diversity of faith. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Many thanks, Mr. Malik, Your Excellency, and many thanks also for the numerous examples of wonderful practices and projects and campaigns that you have started at ICISCO and continue. This is all very helpful indeed. The next speaker is Ms. Noemi Di Segni, who is the president of the Union of Italian Jewish Communities. Bevakasha.
Buongiorno, good morning, Boker Tov. His Honor Minister Bianchi, distinguished speakers, distinguished religious leaders, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Alberto Sermoneta, Rabbi of Bologna. So I will just provide a few highlights of issues that are related to the topic, to the specific topic of our session. So first of all, I would like to express appreciation for the choice of adding this religious dimension to the G20 works and decisions or plans, as usually it is characterized by economic and financial topics, and I think that the religious dimension is essential to any planning that we can have in our Italian context, but even more in Europe, as it still waits for a constitution. So the challenge that we have is not only of inter-religious dialogue, but is also how all the religions together dialogue with political or public institutions. And of course, in this case, I would express some reflections about the Italian situation. Judaism is based on education and teaching. The same word Torah, it comes from the basic meaning of Torah means teach something. So this is at the heart of our religious essence. And what can we provide? What can we contribute? So we can contribute in two levels. Towards the external society and institutions, how our religious values, experience, story, traditions, culture can be of support in methodologies, content, educational plans to the public context. How can we contribute with our religious heritage to a non-religious context, and how we do it? And of course, this is a challenge, and it's made of many details that we will not enter into them, but I would also only like to mention here the appreciation for a very important project that we are bringing on with the Conferenza Episcopale Italiana, revising Italian texts that are adopted by schools, religious schools, and in public school. And of course, this is a very delicate task. Internally, I think also we have a responsibility as Jewish communities and religious community, not only Jewish ones. How do we foster and how do we build religious identity to our children, young people? How do we make them not only good citizens, but also good religious people with values to bring into external society and to build good and strong and resilient communities? So this is also an educational challenge. And of course, education starts at day one of our life, and it's made of many actors and different areas where it happens. So the responsibility and the challenge is to put these pieces in an effective manner all together. And that's a synergy that we have to build, especially today that society is challenged by so much hate speech online, anti-Semitism, and everything that, of course, is happening even in these days around us and all the challenges that we have. Now a call to the Minister, Bianchi especially, and to the public schools, maybe to rethink how religion is taught in the public school. So maybe not only ora di religione, but ora delle religioni. So to give the space, it should not be a sort of a religious service to Catholic children that are coming to the public school to have an opportunity to learn about Christianity, but maybe an hour that needs to be shared for the teaching and learning about all the religions. How to do it, of course, it's a huge project, but that's my call and appeal to do that. And I think it's important as society has great changes. So rethinking this format. In a very, very sensitive issue, and I share it with responsibility, but with a sense of honesty. I think a challenge also for Jewish schools. We have 4 Jewish schools in Italy, Rome, Milan, Torino, and Trieste. And I think that Jewish communities also need to have the strength and understand how and what to teach about other religions. Of course, we are concentrated about how and what we teach from a religious perspective to our children on the Jewish program, but we need to have the courage to teach also the content that regards other religions and not to be frightened that if we teach something that regards others, we will necessarily have people that will not follow in an adequate way the Jewish tradition. So find a way of teaching also other religions also in the Jewish school. So we have just launched and started the new year, 5,782 of the Jewish calendar. And these are the days of the year, the high days of thinking about our doings in the last year, in the next year, and how do we want to build our personal, intimate life, but also our communities and our doing in civil society. So it's a moment of deep rethinking, and I think this needs to be extended also to us as leaders, as religious leaders, and as institutions. And of course, it's not about promising, but it's about doing. So hopefully the year that will come will be fruitful and full of good doing for all of us, and showing that religions are not only wars in history or wars in the present, but are also able to make concrete peace in daily life, even in tiny small things. So I extend the wishes of the new year of Shana Tova to everybody, that it will be hopefully a good year for everything, and especially a good and joyful, as the minister said, for everything in the school. Thank you very much.
Grazie, Donna Di Segni. According to the list here is His Excellency, the Minister of Education of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Anar Karimov. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Just small precision, I'm the Minister of Culture of the Republic of Azerbaijan. but for the Minister of Culture, I think it would be very hard to advocate for the education, but it is a reality. We need to advocate for education always. Thank you again, and first of all, at the outset, I would like to thank the Italian Presidency of G20 for organizing and for initiating this meeting, and it's indeed very timely and important initiative to bring together the government officials, religious leaders, civil society and media to reflect on these outstanding issues like dialogue, peace, and the diversity and inclusion, and many other issues that we are facing today, and the challenges that the humanity is facing today. And when we analyze the situation in the world, we see that, and the experience shows that the humanity addressing, in order to address these challenges that we are facing, the hard power is not enough, and we need more soft power. And when we speak about soft power, of course, first what comes to our mind is education. And when we speak about education, it's not about literacy, and it's more about soft skills, like educating or learning the concept of empathy, the concept of respect and acceptance of differences of each other, more about diversity and inclusion. All these essential elements need to be taught at the educational institutions in order to instill and inject these necessary, I would say, elements of peace in the minds of people. Let me share the experience of Azerbaijan, which in a way will respond to the questions that raised in this meeting. This model of peaceful coexistence that in Azerbaijan we enjoyed for centuries, in a way, a very good response to these pressing challenges that we face. When we speak about the model of Azerbaijan, I think there are two main components and elements that contributed to the success of this model. First is the history and geography. For centuries, Azerbaijan was a place, a melting pot, I would say, of different cultures and religions. And we enjoyed this peaceful coexistence for many years just because of the geography and the history that. So this geography and history shaped out these millennial traditions of peaceful coexistence and respect, mutual respect between nations and religions. We have a big and thriving Christian and Jewish communities in Azerbaijan, and we are very proud of this community that really play a dynamic role in history of Azerbaijan, in shaping out our culture and identity. When in different regions, for instance, Jews were persecuted, in Azerbaijan they found a safe haven. And we are very proud of these assets that we cherished and preserved till now in the country. And the second very important element, it's the commitment of the government and the support of the government. When we speak about the success, this success, that's not something that we took it for granted. For this success, we owe to the government policy. And this government policy is based on four main pillars. First is the legislation. When it comes to Azerbaijan, along with the constitution, different laws like on culture, on education, on gender equality, to name a few, and many others, ensures the equal rights and provides all opportunities for the ethnic and religious communities living in Azerbaijan to freely exercise their cultural rights and to have freedom of worship and they exercise their rights in a very free way. A second very important element is the institutional measures. Apart of with the government, as a government bodies that we have that ensures this equality of the rights, we have also institutional framework in terms of the NGOs and in non-governmental organizations that also contribute to the measures that the government is doing. For instance, in 2014, we have established Baku International Multiculturalism Center, which aims to promote interreligious and intercultural relationship within Azerbaijan, and they're implementing several projects to bring these communities together. Then we have many other foundations, and among them I would like to highlight the Haydar Ali Foundation, which is one of the leading foundations that supports the religious activities and makes projects in terms of restoration of religious places of the communities in Azerbaijan. One of the also main areas and the important actions of the government is empowering religious leaders to do some actions together in Azerbaijan. And it's very powerful means that sends to the respective members of the religious communities very important signals that we need to be together. For instance, in Azerbaijan, religious leaders are gathered for the public holidays, for religious holidays, and they celebrate these holidays together. And I would like, and I always bring this example that we have one religious holidays in Islamic world is called Ashura. For these Ashura days, our religious leaders are donating the blood for those who need this blood. And this sends a very powerful message to their respective communities that although we're different with the religions, but our blood is the same. I think this helps a lot for the people in the country to understand that we are united on the same roof, on the same place. Another important element that I would like to also speak about diversity and inclusion, that's through different educational programs that we try to instill. And for us, unity in diversity is not just simple words. It's a success formula for the multicultural societies. We believe that it is an important element and it is a prerequisite of the sustainable development and civil cohesion. And last but not least, it is our international efforts in terms of raising the importance of the dialogue and intercultural, interreligious dialogue on the agenda, on the international agenda. And we have something to be proud. Since 2008, Baku, Azerbaijan initiated Baku process, and this Baku process became a major platform in promoting intercultural and interreligious dialogue, and it is supported by international organizations like UNESCO, UN Alliance of Civilizations, ICESCO, and many others. And sorry, yes, very short. And I would like to also point out that restoration of cultural heritage is very important in order to promote peace in the country. And when we speak about restoration of the cultural heritage, it doesn't necessarily mean the material restoration, but it's more software. It's enabling the respective communities to reconnect with their collective memory, with their identity and history. And although we have faced this destruction of cultural heritage everywhere in the whole part of the world, and in the case of Azerbaijan, within these 30 years of occupation, we have been facing this destruction of cultural heritage. We do believe that, and after the liberation of these territories, we are keen and we are very eager to restore all this cultural heritage in the liberated territories, irrespective of its origin and religious affiliation. And we will provide these opportunities for all religious communities to freely confess their religion in these religious places. And the final point that I would like to say, just recently, recognizing the role of culture in promoting of peace, and of course, recognizing the importance of peace to revive the culture, to restore and to regenerate the culture in the post-conflict situations like Azerbaijan is facing now. We launched a very important initiative which we called Peace for Culture, and I'm very happy that two key partners that supported this Peace for Culture concept are sitting in this panel, UN Alliance of Civilization and ISESCO. And this concept of Peace for Culture is something new that we introduce to the world, and it aims to promote peace in post-conflict situation, to revive and to bring back the people to practice their culture in the post-conflict situations. And the very last point that I would like to say is, always in these meetings I quote our 12th century poetess Mahsati Ganjavi. We always face this issue of individualism in the world, and what 12th century poetess said in her poems, in one of her poems, is, I think, is a very striking and needs to be remembered. She said that when I went beyond myself, the pathway finally opened. I think, it is the true essence of peace and dialogue. And we have to go beyond ourselves to understand and to embrace diversity and inclusion. Thank you.
Çok sağ ol. Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my great honor and privilege and pleasure to now invite His Excellency, the High Representative of the United Nations Alliance of Civilization, to the podium, Mr. Professor Miguel Ángel Moratinos, Cuyaubé. Por favor.
So, good morning, everybody, everyone. Thank you, Minister Patrizio Bianchi, for chairing our meeting. Thank you, of course, to see so many friends. I see our friend from the Grand Virtue, from the Caucasus, Iman Pasasade, so many friends. It's a great honor, a great privilege to be present here in Bologna. Last year we were in Riyadh, but virtually. The Alliance of Civilization was co-sponsor with KAICIID, and I salute my brother and friend, Dr. Faisal Muammar. And we have to thank the Italian government, as some of my predecessors said in this event. I think the Italian presidency of G20 understood the importance of bringing this issue of ethics, values, principles, religions, culture at the heart of the preparatory work of the G20 summit. Why? I think we have to follow His Holiness Pope Francis in her last book and in many remarks. But one of the latest remarks, he said that, as the Minister Bianchi said, it's time to stop. For what? To think, to see, to discern, to choose. It is time for, instead of going in this accelerated and speed, societies, that the people who have the responsibility to take care of our thinking, ethic, values, give some thought. Where we go? Where is the world going? What we are targeting to? And I think we have, you know, in history, there's always this kind of inflection point, a moment of surprise and review our common strategy that give us the chance to stop and to try to understand where we are going. 20 years ago, my dear friends, we had this tremendous shock of the terrorist attack in 9/11. I'm not going to ask you a minute of silence, but I think I will ask you to have your internal minute of silence for the, you know, the people who died, the people who suffered, the people who are still injured, and to have an introspective, you know, attitude. After 20 years of the Twin Towers collapse, where we are. After 20 years and the fall of Kabul, where we go. And why we have this sense of confusion, of lack of, you know, hope, at least in the Western world, not in the rest of the world, because I've been traveling and there are other parts of the world that are dynamic, they are hopeful, but with the Westerner, we think we are losing the sense of history. Well, I think the world went in the wrong direction after 9/11. Unfortunately, we, the Western in general, we adopt the strategy of security first, security, security, security. And we lost a key word that has been pronounced here, and Pope Francis in his address to this Interfaith G20 Interfaith seminar, the word peace. It has been in all our word, peace. And Minister Bianchi referred to peace. So let's go back to peace and development. Let's go back to a real agenda. Or ask yourself, as Westerner, and I'm addressing the European and the Westerner, you feel more secure today than 20 years ago? No, we feel more insecure because security doesn't give you reconciliation. Security makes you feel unsecure. So we have to work with this fantastic concept that is peace. In the beginning of the 20th century, there was a lot of peaceful movement. We forgot that. Now I think we are coming back. Okay, so let's go, and sorry for allowing me to address this general concept of where we go, of this specific subject that is, you know, education and religious diversity. Yes, how we are going to build our society. And then immediately you say, and some of my predecessors in this panel has mentioned, we need to use and to build on education. And Minister, you are the one who leads education. And you know how difficult it is to maintain this education program. And in the international sphere, every time we want to see and to show some future, we say, we have to invest in education. Education, education, education. But then what are the realities? Well, we have a fantastic program launched by UNESCO, ourselves. We participate as the Alliance of Civilization, is the global citizenship education. But when I took over my responsibility, I said, well, okay, we support this program, but what we are doing on the ground? What are the programs? What are the projects? Well, yes, of course, we want to say, and we have been told that there are a lot of attempts. And a representative of the Jewish community here, he had a fantastic presentation today, and I congratulate her. we have to introduce in the primary, in the secondary, school, this set of values. That was my first message to my dear friend Audrey Azoulay when I met her in Paris. Because it's not the Alliance who is going to review all the curricula of primary and secondary school, it's the UNESCO who has a responsibility. And I told her, can we provide you some guidelines for including in the schools, in the secondary school, this set of values? I say, of course, let's go to do so. Well, we're still working on that. But in order not to stop that, we launch and we support certain initiatives. I was extremely happy when I went to visit my friend in Malta, that the Maltese government, with the help of some academics, some are here in this session, they proposed the Alliance to launch a fantastic program called Inclusive Religion Education. That means that they will introduce in the schools a program, a subject, an issue that will not just teach Islam or Judaism or Christianity, no, they will teach the children how to, the three monotheistic religions have, improved the setting and the value of our own self. And we are working on that. And I think it will be a fantastic program. And the Alliance is going to support it with the support of and backing of the Maltese government. But we don't want only to make it in Malta. We want to really expand to other places in order that every place they have this sense of values and principle. Because, my dear Minister, education is, of course, knowledge, science, new technology, to equip people, to train people. But the main important is to form people with values and principles. And we are now facing a world where we will have not this capacity to have people that believe in the principle of fraternity, respect, compassion, solidarity, etc., etc. We in the United Nations Alliance of Civilization, we have several programs. We've been working all the way through this program. It was former President Sampaio that unfortunately passed away last Friday. He was my predecessor, and we of course paid a tremendous respect for him, and we really, I want to say formally in this, my first intervention in front of the public about his legacy. He introduced this preventive diplomacy tool of the Alliance, and education was one of the main ones. Well, one of the last projects that we have been working together is EDIN, that means empowering dialogue in interfaith network, where media, young religious leader and faith organization are working together to create this set of values. But then we have the chance to really be part of what my friend Anar Karimov, the Minister of Culture of Azerbaijan, has presented to you. We come in a moment where the Azerbaijan government decided to invert the term of what is non-traditional but the culture of peace. And they propose us and our friend Salim Malik of FSCIRE to co-sponsor a new initiative. Peace for culture is not culture for peace. And so we'll ask you, why? What does it mean peace for culture? Again, I will tell you as I started my intervention, because the peace concept is the one who should lead our thinking. We are not working, no, so we work in order to really consolidate this new approach of peace that have to be done. So my last remark is about this confusion that is still mainly present in European debate, political debate, where the role of religion is present is going to be, adopted, is going to be respected. And of course, we Europeans, Westerners, we have adopted a secular institution. And the French, they say the laïcisme, laïcité. A lot of confusion about religion and secular societies. And again, Pope Francis, when he addressed a message on the 50th anniversary of the relation between the Holy See and the European community, he sent a fantastic text. And this text, they say, I dream of a Europe marked by a healthy secularism. That means that it's not that God and Caesar are distinct, but not opposed. So of course, you have God, you have Caesar, you have a secular society, but can we renounce to spirituality ourselves? Your citizen, you can have your own ethic or value, but you think in today's world, where technology and science is going to overwhelm us by the new concept of control and surveillance, we need to save sapiens, to save Homo sapiens. And how to save Homo sapiens is with the sense of values and principles and humanity. So my dear friend, that is the main message. And I think we have a lot way to wait, but Minister, you are the one who is going to convey the message to your government in order to prepare the G20 summit. Please give me my advice. This summit have not to talk about financial crisis. Even, well, the pandemic is okay, but if I have the chair, I will say, everybody out. One moment, where we go, my friends? We go together, or we will continue to fight each other between ourselves? No, we will agree what I call multilateralism à la carte. Well, we will agree to save the planet, climate change, but we will not agree to save the humanity. We will not agree to live in peace. So that is the message of the G20 in Italy. So thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Your Excellency, not only for your powerful words, but also for the wisdom and the challenge that you are throwing at us in this urgent period of our humanity together. Thank you. Our next speaker is Professor Ibrahim Özdemir, who is the former Deputy Director General of the Department of Foreign Affairs at the Turkish Ministry of Education. Buyurun.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, most gracious and most merciful. Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege and honor to be invited here and present my humble views on the role of education and religious diversity. Therefore, I would also like to thank Professor Alberto Melloni and his team for this excellent job. The title of this year's forum is The Time to Heal, Peace Among Cultures, Understanding Between Religions. The very title has many layers of meaning, and one is that we have problems with our education system when addressing and handling our cultural and religiously diverse societies as a result of globalization. We are expected, as the title of this event implies, to heal these problems besetting our global community with a new mindset which gives us hope. Joseph Heath puts what expected from us, I think, eloquently in his book Enlightenment, 2.0. Quote, we are expected to restoring sanity to our politics, our economic system, and our lives, unquote. I want to suggest that we need to reflect on the role of education in understanding, respecting, and maintaining religious diversity as an asset of humanity. Let me ask the question why religion still matters in the 21st century, as His Excellency Minister of Education underlined very well. We have to define, we have to understand what religion means. Some great minds of modern times told us that religion and any manifestation of religiosity would disappear and would be replaced with a modern scientific worldview in the future. But like it or not, religion is still with us and at the core of world politics. Just look at current major events in the world. They are either religious or have religious implications and connotations. So we must study the religious and multi-religious phenomena from a new perspective and to change our modern and negative conception of religion as a primitive way of thinking. Then maybe we can develop a better concept of religion and religious values to overcome the stereotypes about any religion and get rid of political use of religion, or at least minimize it. I believe that the links among diverse cultures in general and Islam and the global West in particular matter more today than ever before, because the degree of misunderstanding between the Islamic and Western worlds remains dangerously high. Therefore, the need for the two to live and work together in our increasingly interdependent world has never been greater. We have to learn the language of diversity, and celebrate diversity. The depressing fact, however, is that despite the advances in technology and mass communication, despite mass travel, the intermingling of races, and ever-growing reduction, or so we believe, of the mysteries of the world, misunderstanding, prejudices, and stereotypes among members of different faiths and cultures still endure. Ladies and gentlemen, last August, just 3 weeks ago, I attended an international conference, the first one after the COVID-19 locked down us at our homes. Our homes becomes like our prison. I had an opportunity to listen to Professor Dr. Ernest Ulrich von Weizsäcker, a former chair of the Club of Rome and editor of the book Come On at Osnabrück University. He once more summarized his theory of new enlightenment to us, in his keynote speech, as he says many problems we have been struggling to solve or heal, as our forum G20 is trying to heal, as a direct result of or byproduct of what he calls enlightenment 1.0. We have, and which directly links the enlightenment thought of the modernity with a particular type of economy and financial system, which led to the first industrial revolution. As the Enlightenment 1.0 is criticized by many thinkers to be the cause of our spiritual crisis, he suggested a new enlightenment which is more inclusive and compassionate. I am surprised what he suggested. Yes, it is also repeated here on this panel in this morning. So I want to underline the role of education to heal our wounds. As our current education system have been inspired, created, and shaped by the ideas of Enlightenment 1.0, which excludes religion, we have to create and design a new education system that understands, appreciates, respects, and celebrates biological, cultural, as well as religious diversity as an asset and richness of humanity. In my studies, I concluded that without reforming our educational philosophy, we will not make any progress and solve our daunting and pending problems. Therefore, educating our children with the ability and skills of creative and critical thinking to understand the biological, cultural, and religious diversity as an asset for humanity. Let me conclude, my conviction that I do believe that a new educational model which presents and nurtures cultural, racial, and religious diversity as an ethical imperative, inseparable from respect for human dignity. It implies a commitment to human rights and fundamental freedom, in particular the rights of persons belonging to minorities and those of indigenous people. Thank you very much.
Teşekkür ederim, Professor Özdemir. Our last speaker is indeed from the Congregation for Catholic Education, but it is not the name that you have on your program, Giuseppe Versalli, but he has been replaced by Father Friedrich Becchina, who is right here to my left, and I invite him to take the podium. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear Minister of Education of Italy, all distinguished guests, I'm honored and glad to be here and to speak in this distinguished audience, and I'm explicitly grateful for the Italian minister also for explaining to me when I came into this room the very historical importance of this room, which shows us as at the core of the first European university, the authority of truth and the value of critical thinking within an academic community. But I think it's not only the historical importance of this place, it's also the importance of this place today, in this very moment of history, difficult history. And this is also because of the same principles of the authority of truth and critical thinking, which is represented by your presence, by our presence, and what we are doing together, which is thus just continuing what had started here more than 900 years ago. We all took note, and we want to support the recommendations for practice prepared by the working group, working through the last months to prepare this conference. I would also like to subscribe to many of the suggestions, beautiful suggestions, important suggestions, which have been presented by the previous speakers here. But we have also to be cautious that we don't remain just talking among us, where we all agree on certain principles, not being aware that some of these principles are heavily contested. Indeed, religion is top on the agenda today. It was mentioned just before by the Turkish minister. But if we look even in major newspapers and we read critically one of the articles speaking about religion, we often find a great lack of understanding, and sometimes I would even doubt that somebody who would comment the World Cup in football could demonstrate 2 times such a lack of knowledge, such an assembly of stereotypes with regard to single religions or religion as such. And therefore, let me go back one step to find again more safe ground with some initial reflections, which I want to condivide with you so that we can work to create this secure, this safe ground of dialogue and discussion, which we find also symbolically represented in this very place of eminent thinking. First, it's the question, what has religion to do with education as such? And I want to refer with our authority of representing the root of religion in Europe. Mrs. Senni taught us that Torah means education. Religion is about education. And religion means process of development. of maturation of persons who more and more become to know where they are coming from, where they want to go. Let us not forget that religion has to do with education itself, and that education processes will never work if we are not know where we are departing from, and we are not aware where we want to go. The second suggestion which I want to share with you is the question of religious literacy or religious illiteracy. Pope Francis said the divorce of fields of learning and illiteracy with regards to integrating the distinct dimension of life bring only fragmentation and social breakdown. The mastery of technical skills like complex problem solving, the perfect use of deductive and inductive logic or analytic reasoning without any kind of empathy or the ability to work collaboratively would be cause of frustration and failure, not only from a social but also a personal perspective. Therefore, I want to advocate for religious formation, not just information about religion, but real processes of religious formation, which means that we know what we are talking about, that we have a clear pedagogical didactic concept, and that we have points of departure and points of arrival. Critical thinking reminds us that religion must have to do with rationality if we want to prevent integrism and fundamentalism. Truth and readiness to use critical thinking needs to be applied as criteria even in thinking and talking about our own religions. The fourth point, learning from religious diversity. The more we know others, the more we understand also ourselves. And learning functions in dialogue, or it doesn't work at all. And the last suggestion is a call for educational alliances and the Global Compact on Education, as Pope Francis said recently in some speeches. Education is not a work with a single teacher or a single student could do in the individual setting, just to enhance one's own capacity to perform better in the labor market or in other contexts. Education is team play, is work together. And it gives me hope that we are here to discuss these issues. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to go back to our roots, as reminded to us by Mrs. Seni, that religion, Torah, means teaching. Teaching which is not our own invention, is not the best technique, the best suggestion which anybody of us has made, but it is listening to the inspiration God, the good God, gives us. Listen to this, share it, and go to action. Thank you.
Vielen Dank, Father Becchina. I'd like to invite the Minister Patrizio Bianchi, Your Excellency. He asked for a few minutes of wrap-up towards the end, and he will immediately, after his few minutes of wrap-up, have to leave for interviews. And so, and then we will conclude with hopefully time for a few questions with each other, the other members of the panel. So, per favore.
No, let me start exactly from the point that Felix said before, that is this room. This room is the original room, the original place of the University of Bologna. At the beginning of the first millennium, 1,000 years ago, we had around the world a real fear of the new millennium. And one of the reactions against this fear was that the people started to come to Bologna, and they started to Bologna to discuss, to start a dialogue, to research. And this was the origin of the university. And the coat of arms that you can see are the arms of those students. After all the other universities were founded by the Pope or by the Emperor, but the original university was founded by the students as a reaction to the transition of millenniums. We are in the transition of millennium now, and we have crisis, and we call this crisis financial crisis or health crisis, or no, it's much more. We are going into a new millennium, and it's necessary also that we start a new dialogue, that we start the possibility to put on the wall our arms, the arms of all the people that are coming here. Are coming here to research. We are coming here to study. This is Bologna. We are coming here from overall in the world to speak together. And we are using words that probably we have lost in the last 20 years. Peace, the path. It's true, you are right. I remember that when I was young, we had, at that time, we remember a phrase of Tacitus, when Tacitus said that, in Latin is ubi solitudinem faciunt pacem appellant. They called peace simply the fact that they have created a desert. Peace is not a desert. Peace is not simply to cancel any different voice. Peace is dialogue. And this is the sense also of this meeting, of this G20. This is not a very important meeting of researchers. It is a G20. It's an official meeting. It's an official meeting of governments. It's an official meeting of delegations. It's the place where we have to restart to discuss about the meaning of the words. And the first word is peace. Peace is dialogue. The dialogue is difficult. It's not easy. It's not obvious. It's not natural. We need instruments to start a serious dialogue about our future. And this is education. Avoid the idea that education is only for our children. I want to repeat it. We are the people that we have to be educated by ourselves. And we need new instruments. We need new places. We need new conditions to speak together. And this is extremely important. And religions must be the place not of new divisions, of old divisions, but the driver of a new dialogue. This is the sense of this extraordinary panel. Everybody in this panel said, with different expression, the same need of start a new dialogue in order to go over the fear of the new millennium. We have to manage the transition, the new millennium, having the possibility to avoid new disaster, new desert. We have to create the condition to restart to speak about development, human development, non-development, development of the economist, I'm an economist, but development of, in sense of human capacity to face and to solve our problems. It's an extraordinary opportunity. Probably the only one that we have now. Of course, we can decline this sense in terms of we take care to the environment, or we have to take care to the rights of the people. Or we have to take care to one thing, that is solidarity. Solidarity is the only one real instrument to face all the other challenges of our time. But it's our time, my friends. There is not the time of the others. There is not the time of our children or the time of our ancestors. It's our time. And we are here today together. Thank you.
Grazie mille, Your Excellency. I really believe that these words are resonating with all of us. I thank you very much for your presence, for hosting us in this historical space that calls us to renew and rethink of the purpose of our next millennium together. And I'd like, because of time, I think we have to end here to respect the other meetings that follow. But I'd like to thank in particular also Your Excellency, Dr. Moratinos, for being with us today, spending your time with us, and all the other ministers of education and culture, as well as our expert educationists here at the panel. It's been a very rich panel today. I'd like to thank all of you for being present, and in closing, of course, thanking the government of Italy, as well as the city of Bologna for hosting us, and last but not least, Professor Melloni and all of his team for being the key people that they have to bring us together this morning. Mille grazie, grazie mille to all of you, many thanks, and arrivederci.